July 8th, 1947. The Roswell Daily Record publishes a headline that will echo through history. RAAF Captures Flying Disc. The Roswell Army Air Field, home to the 509th Bomb Group, the only atomic bomb unit in the world, announces it has recovered wreckage from a flying saucer. Within hours, it's global news. This is proof we're not alone. Then, the next day, the military retracts it. We made a mistake. It was a weather balloon. For 30 years, Roswell fades into obscurity. But in 1980, books claim alien bodies were recovered. Multiple crash sites. Autopsies. A massive cover-up. Here's what actually happened. The military did lie in 1947. It wasn't a weather balloon, but it also wasn't aliens. What crashed was a spy device designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. A program so classified that even decades later, revealing it compromised intelligence capabilities. This is the true story. Not aliens, but Cold War secrecy and legitimate national security concerns. The evidence is documented. And the truth is more interesting than the myth. On June 14th, 1947, Mac Brazel, a ranch foreman 75 miles northwest of Roswell, found debris scattered across his property after severe thunderstorms. His description from the Roswell Daily Record interview July 9th, 1947, rubber strips, tin foil, a rather tough paper, and sticks. Brazel was familiar with weather balloons. He'd found them before. This looked different, unusual enough to store in his shed. Crucial fact, Brazel found this debris on June 14th. 3 weeks before the flying saucer hysteria, on June 24th, pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing unusual objects near Mount Rainier. He described their motion as like a saucer skipping across water. The term flying saucer was born. Within days, hundreds reported sightings nationwide. Flying saucer mania swept America. On July 7th, nearly a month after finding the debris, Brazel drove to Roswell and reported it to Sheriff George Wilcox. He'd heard the flying saucer reports and wondered if there was a connection. The sheriff contacted Roswell Army Air Field. Major Jesse Marcel, intelligence officer for the 509th Bomb Group, investigated with Captain Sharon Cabot. The debris covered a large area. Materials included metallic foil, rubber strips, thin wooden sticks like bamboo, tough parchment-like paper, and tape with markings some described as hieroglyphics, later identified as floral patterns from a toy manufacturer. Marcel was impressed enough to take some home to show his family before delivering it to the base that on July 8th, 1947, Lieutenant Walter Oates issued a press release. The military had recovered a flying disc. Colonel William Blanchard authorized it. The Roswell Daily Record published it immediately. Within hours, global news. But within hours, higher authorities killed the story. The debris was flown to Fort Worth Army Air Field in Texas. Brigadier General Roger Ramey held a press conference, displayed debris on his office floor, and announced it was nothing more than a weather balloon with a radar reflector. Photographs from that press conference still exist. They show metallic foil, rubber, and wooden sticks, exactly what Brazel described. That on July 9th, the Roswell Daily Record ran a new headline: Army debunks Roswell flying disc. The story died. Roswell faded into obscurity for 33 years. In 1980, authors Charles Berlitz and William Moore published The Roswell Incident. This transformed Roswell from forgotten misidentification into the most famous UFO case in history. Now the story included alien bodies, multiple crash sites, government cover-up reaching the highest levels. The problem? These claims appeared decades after the fact and contradicted 1947 evidence. In 1947, no one mentioned alien bodies. Not Brazel, not the military officers, not the newspapers. The elaborate accounts of autopsies, multiple sites, and intimidated witnesses all emerged 35 to 45 years later in books published in the 1980s. By the 1990s, Roswell was so famous that Congressman Stephen Schiff demanded answers. In January 1994, he requested the General Accounting Office investigate. The Air Force conducted its own exhaustive review. In July 1994, they released a 1,000-page report. The conclusion: the debris came from Project Mogul. Here's what Project Mogul was. In 1945, the United States held a monopoly on atomic weapons. But the Soviet Union was working to develop their own. The question: when would they succeed? Dr. Maurice Ewing of Columbia University proposed a solution: acoustic detection. Nuclear explosions could be detected at great distances using sensitive microphones positioned high in the atmosphere. At certain altitudes, sound waves channel horizontally around the Earth. This led to Project Mogul, a classified program to detect Soviet nuclear tests. Based at Alamogordo Army Air Field in New Mexico, about 100 miles southwest of Roswell. The solution was balloon trains, long vertical arrays of 20 to 30 neoprene weather balloons carrying scientific equipment. These trains stretched over 600 feet, longer than the Washington Monument. On June 4, 1947, researchers launched Flight Number 4 from Alamogordo. They tracked it flying east-northeast toward Corona, directly toward the area where Brazel would find debris 10 days later. Approximately 17 miles from Brazel's ranch, tracking equipment lost contact with Flight Number 4. The balloon train was never recovered until Brazel found debris scattered across his ranch. The Air Force report identified Flight Number 4 as the source based on overwhelming evidence. The timing matched perfectly. Flight Number 4 launched June 4th and was lost. Brazel found debris June 14th, consistent with a crashed balloon train sitting on the ground for days. The location matched. Flight 4 was tracked flying toward Corona, last seen within 17 miles of the Foster Ranch. The debris description matched. Every material Brazel described was consistent with Mogul components. Metallic foil equals aluminum-backed neoprene from balloon envelopes, rubber strips equals balloon material, tough paper equals parchment used in parachute sticks equals balsa, wood struts from radar reflectors tape with symbols equals reinforcing tape from a New York toy company with floral patterns. The photographs matched. The debris in General Ramey's office included damaged radar reflectors, exactly what Mogul used. The project records matched. New York University logs documented Flight Number 4's launch, trajectory, and loss. The dates and locations aligned precisely. The cover story was necessary. Project Mogul was highly classified. Its purpose, detecting Soviet nuclear tests, was extremely sensitive. Revealing it in 1947 would have informed the Soviets that the U.S. was developing acoustic detection and potentially revealed how much the U.S. knew about Soviet nuclear progress. When civilians found Mogul debris, officials faced a dilemma. They couldn't reveal the actual program. The weather balloon cover story was close enough to explain the debris, but vague enough to protect the classified program. Final evidence. In September 1947, 2 months after the incident, the New York University team briefed commanding officers at Alamogordo and Roswell on Project Mogul. Why? Because they'd inadvertently stumbled upon a classified program and needed to understand why they shouldn't discuss it. The Air Force report was exhaustive and conclusive. Project Mogul explained every aspect: the debris, the location, the timing, and the cover story. Despite overwhelming evidence, millions still believe an alien spacecraft crashed at Roswell. Why? First, the government admitted it lied. If they lied once, why believe them now? This reaction is understandable. But there's a critical difference. In 1947, the lies served legitimate national security. Project Mogul was genuinely classified. By 1994, when the Air Force revealed it, the Cold War was over. There was no longer reason to conceal it. Second, witness testimony seems compelling. People claim they saw alien bodies, were threatened, were sworn to secrecy. But witness testimony decades after events is notoriously unreliable. Memory studies show false memories can be implanted through suggestion. Details from different events merge. And critically, no witness in 1947 mentioned alien bodies. Those claims emerged 33 years later. Third, some details seem inexplicable. Metal that remembered its shape. Symbols like hieroglyphics. Materials impossibly light yet strong. But every detail has mundane explanation. Memory metal was aluminum foil backed by neoprene, which partially springs back when bent. Hieroglyphics were floral patterns on tape from a New York toy company. Impossibly light materials were balsa wood and thin aluminum foil. Exactly what you'd use for a radar reflector flying at 100,000 feet forth. Cultural factors reinforce belief. Roswell is embedded in popular culture. Movies, TV shows, books, and tourist attractions have turned the alien narrative into American mythology. The town built its economy around UFO tourism. Finally, the alien explanation is simply more exciting. Project Mogul is technically fascinating but emotionally unsatisfying. Acoustic detection of Soviet nuclear tests doesn't inspire wonder, but aliens do. And so the myth persists despite the evidence. Today, Roswell, New Mexico has fully embraced its alien legacy. The International UFO Museum gift shops a UFO-themed McDonald's. Every July, thousands attend the Roswell UFO Festival that it's charming, harmless fun. Economically successful for the town. But underneath, there's a real story worth remembering. The real Roswell story is about the early Cold War, when fear of Soviet nuclear weapons drove the United States to develop extraordinary intelligence capabilities. Project Mogul was one attempt to solve an urgent problem: detecting nuclear tests thousands of miles away by a secretive adversary. The scientists and military personnel were trying to protect American security. When debris from Flight Number 4 landed on Brazel's ranch, officials chose a cover story over revealing a sensitive intelligence program. That choice, necessary at the time, created decades of conspiracy theories. The lesson isn't that governments never lie. They do. The lesson is that evidence matters. Documentation matters. Contemporary records matter more than memories decades later. In 1947, every witness described materials consistent with a balloon and radar reflector. Newspapers published detailed accounts. Photographs showed the debris. No one mentioned alien bodies or spacecraft components. Those details emerged later, after the story became famous, after books were published, after mythology took hold. The documented evidence, contemporaneous newspaper accounts, military records, Project Mogul logs, witness statements from 1947, photographs, all point to the same conclusion. Flight number 4 of Project Mogul crashed on the Foster Ranch. Mac Brazel found the debris. The military recovered it and issued a cover story to protect a classified program that 78 years later. The truth is available to anyone willing to examine it. The Air Force reports are public. The Project Mogul documentation is declassified. The 1947 newspaper accounts are in archives. The truth isn't as exciting as the myth, but it has one crucial advantage. It's supported by evidence. The real story of Roswell reminds us that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. That memory is fallible. That government secrecy can fuel conspiracy theories even when secrets serve legitimate purposes. And that sometimes the mundane explanation really is the correct one, that what crashed near Roswell in 1947 wasn't an alien spacecraft. It was a balloon train carrying acoustic sensors designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. The myth of Roswell says more about us, our desire for mystery, our fascination with the unknown, our suspicion of authority, than about what actually happened in the New Mexico desert in June 1947. The truth is out there. It's just not the truth we wanted.